Now let's build the dinosaur's tongue, and we'll look at how we can smooth it. So let's go ahead and turn off the symmetry so that we can see the inside of the mouth. And we just want to drop kind of a piece of geometry in here for the tongue. So let's go ahead and just start by dropping in a cube. We'll go ahead and just move it up sort of into position. We can change the size of it. So we'll go ahead and decrease the size in the X. Also bring it down in the Y. You can use the handles if you prefer. And go ahead and decrease that. We'll kind of get it into the back of the mouth here. Okay. And keep in mind that this is half of the geometry, so you want to make sure that it kind of fills up the mouth a little bit as far as from side to side. So I'll increase that a little bit more. And I kind of want it to penetrate the back of this. Let's go ahead now and add some segments. So let's add a couple of segments. I want to add a couple of segments here and in the Y, and then several going along the Z direction. Okay, so now at this point we could use a deformer, or we could just go ahead and convert this and start to modify ourselves. So I'm going to go ahead and grab those polygons on the back, and I just want to shape this. So let's go in kind of from the side, and I want to go ahead and just kind of move this geometry down here. Pull this down a little bit and just create a little bit more shape to it from the side at least. Okay, and then we want to come in and kind of scale this down a little bit. So kind of scaling it down here, and then we'll choose the next line, scale that down a little bit. The points up at the very front we can really take down quite a lot. Okay, so you just want this kind of a cube shape. Now rather than adding kind of a HyperNURBS to smooth this out, we can actually smooth the geometry ourselves. So we'll go to Mesh, Commands, we want to go to Subdivide. So by default I believe the HyperNURBS subdivide's off, but if I just hit Subdivide here, you can see it adds the divisions but it doesn't change the shape. So what we want to do is actually smooth it. And so we'll go ahead and do Subdivide again, and this time we'll turn on the HyperNURBS Subdivide. And so what that's doing is basically taking what we had in our HyperNURBS and baking that in. So it's just performing it as an action. So here are the number of levels. So we can go ahead and subdivide once, and you can see that that not only adds geometry but also smooths out the shape of the geometry, and that's baked in now to that cube. Okay, we can call this our tongue, and we can continue to shape that if we want to. If we want to use a deformer on that, let me go ahead and turn the symmetry back on, and we can see that that tongue is sort of inside there. So if we want to kind of rotate it just a little bit so that we can see it in there, we can do that. Okay, so if you have geometry that you don't necessarily want to use a hierarchy workflow, dropping it inside of a HyperNURBS to smooth it out, you actually want to add the geometry to the polygon. You want it to smooth it. Then you can use that subdivide. Just remember, you have to turn on that HyperNURBS subdivision if you want it to smooth out. But then you can choose the level. If you want it to be really smooth, lots of polygons, you can increase that level. Otherwise, if you turn that old checkbox off, it'll just add the divisions without actually smoothing it. Okay? So in the next lesson, let's go ahead and take a look at how we can take all of this and turn it into a nice piece of polygon geometry that we can export to another application, export as an OBJ, and see it in all kinds of different applications. So we've got all of this set up into these parenting relationships and hierarchies, which is really cool, and it really helps us keep a lot of flexibility in how we work, but we want to bake everything down into polygons. And so let's go ahead and finish up by taking a look at that in the next lesson.